If only one person in a closed and underground room decided not to believe the word of a computer, could the world not exist right now? The question is, if you were that person, would you obey or doubt? The rule is simple, absolute, and rehearsed until it replaces instinct. If the system reports a launch, you report it up the chain, immediately, cleanly, without interpretation. In the Soviet strategic rocket forces, hesitation is not caution, it is treason. Officers are trained to understand that the machinery is purer than the human mind. Electronics do not panic. Computers do not sleep. Men do. That belief is reinforced every day, in classrooms with chalk dust hanging in the air, in concrete bunkers smelling of oil and ozone, in inspections where a misaligned badge earns public reprimand. You trust the system because the system is the state. You are replaceable. The doctrine is not. The early warning officers learn their procedures by muscle memory. A console lights, a code prints, a phone is lifted, a report is spoken in exact phrasing. Not maybe, not it looks like, only confirmed. The punishment for error runs in one direction only. Failing to report an attack is unforgivable. Reporting one that does not exist is embarrassing, but survivable. This is how obedience becomes safety. The rule protects you from responsibility. The rule carries the weight. If the world ends, it is because the enemy fired first, and because you followed instructions. At Serpukhov 15, the secret command center south of Moscow, the routine is suffocatingly calm. Shifts rotate. Officers drink bitter tea from thick glass cups. The hum of electronics never stops. There are drills where klaxons scream and red lights pulse, and everyone moves fast and perfectly. Afterwards, the room returns to its dim, regulated glow. Silence feels earned. Years pass without the rule being truly tested. The satellites stare down at the United States, watching for the unmistakable infrared bloom of intercontinental ballistic missiles lifting from their silos. Nothing happens. The system proves itself by doing nothing at all. That nothing becomes faith. Young officers absorb it quickly. Senior officers defend it aggressively. Doubt is treated like rust, small at first, then catastrophic. Better to scrape it away early. The rule is written into manuals, but more importantly, into careers. Promotions follow those who never improvise. Those who question are quietly sidelined. The message is clear. Survival comes from compliance. And then, in 1983, the rule faces a night it was never designed for. A night when the system speaks clearly. A night when obedience promises annihilation. But in 1983, that rule was tested. The officers at Serpukhov 15 know the Cold War is cold in name only. In September 1983, tension is thick enough to taste. Earlier that month, a Soviet interceptor shot down Korean Airlines Flight 007 after it strayed into restricted airspace. All 269 people aboard were killed. The world is furious. Soviet leadership is defensive, convinced the incident was a provocation wrapped in tragedy. NATO exercises simulate nuclear release procedures. Western rhetoric hardens. Moscow listens for threats in every broadcast. But inside the bunker, geopolitics arrives only in fragments, snippets from Pravda, briefings stripped of emotion. The officers know the United States has thousands of nuclear warheads. They know a first strike would aim to decapitate command and control. They know retaliation must be immediate, or it becomes impossible. What they do not know is how close miscalculation already is. Daily life grinds on. There is waiting punctuated by checks, coffee gone cold on metal desks, jokes traded in low voices about the air filters or the never-ending night shifts. Cigarette smoke curls where it shouldn't, quickly stamped out when a superior walks past. The bunker smells of warm circuitry and stale fabric. Outside, it is late September. Darkness comes earlier now. Clouds hang over the northern hemisphere, thick and layered. Weather data scrolls across screens, mostly ignored. The satellites do not care about clouds, the officers are told. The sensors see heat, not light. Hours stretch. Time loses texture. The boredom becomes oppressive, pressing against the back of the skull. This is the most dangerous part of the job, not alarms, but monotony. Minds wander. Fatigue settles into bones. Somewhere across the ocean, the United States sleeps. That fact is abstract, almost fictional. The enemy is a map symbol, a red block of coordinates. No one imagines kitchens or bedrooms, only launch fields. The system, called OCO, is new. It has not yet earned the quiet trust of age. Engineers have assured command it works. The officers have been told this repeatedly, which is not the same as seeing proof. Tonight, Lieutenant Colonel Stanislav Petrov is the duty officer. He did not expect to be here. He is not a career early warning man. He is trained in engineering, in analysis. That makes him useful and slightly suspect. As midnight approaches, nothing suggests that history is about to compress into a few unbearable minutes. The air hums, screens glow, a clock ticks too loudly. The calm stretches and stretches until it becomes unbearable. You are 44 years old. You were born in 1939 into a family shaped by war. Your father flew fighter aircraft in the Great Patriotic War. Courage is not abstract to you. It is something that came home tired and silent. You studied engineering because systems make sense. People don't. You did not seek command posts or medals. You wanted problems that could be solved with logic. That is how you ended up here, at Serpukov 15, working with a system that claims logic, but still feels unproven. You are married. You worry about money. You worry about health. These worries are manageable. Nuclear war is not. Tonight, you sit at the console as the duty officer. That means the final responsibility to classify what the system reports before it goes higher. You know the procedure. You could recite it in your sleep. You also know the system's weaknesses. You helped test it. You remember simulations that didn't quite line up with reality. You remember edge cases dismissed because they were statistically unlikely. Your colleagues see you as calm, maybe a little detached. Inside, you carry a quiet fear, not of dying, but of being wrong in a way that cannot be corrected. You are not supposed to think like that. The contradiction tightens as the shift wears on. You trust the state. You distrust perfection. Those ideas cannot coexist peacefully. You glance at the clock. Another routine night. You think about going home. About sleep. Then, without warning, the room changes. A siren cuts through the hum. A red word flashes on your screen. Launch. Your stomach drops before your mind catches up. Training takes over. You feel your pulse in your ears. Your mouth goes dry. The system indicates a single missile launch from the continental United States. One missile. That detail matters, and it makes no sense. You know doctrine. A first strike would not be one missile. It would be hundreds, enough to blind, decapitate, erase. Your training tells you not to analyze. Your instincts, sharpened by years of engineering, scream that something is wrong. The room looks to you. You feel the weight settle. In seconds, you will have to decide whether to speak a sentence that could end the world. The system begins its countdown. Data scrolls faster now. The satellite indicates trajectory consistent with an intercontinental ballistic missile. Estimated time to impact, under 30 minutes. That is the window for decision, communication, retaliation. You run the math in your head. One missile is illogical. 5 would be illogical. 10 would still be insufficient. The system is designed to catch mass launches, not symbolic gestures. A voice reports, "Confirmation level 1." Another alarm. A second missile appears, then a third, then a fourth, then a fifth. 5 launches, all from the same region. Your heart pounds. Sweat beads along your spine. The air feels thick. Your hands hover above the console, trembling despite your effort to steady them. If you report this as a confirmed attack, the information goes to the highest levels of command. From there, retaliation procedures may begin automatically. You will have done your duty. If you report it as a false alarm and you are wrong, the consequences are unthinkable and personal. Courts-martial, prison. History will not remember nuance. Fragments of dialogue cut through the noise. System shows high reliability. Satellites confirm. Time is passing. You think about the enemy's incentives. You think about American politics. You think about how war actually works, not how it is diagrammed. What decision would you make if it were you? Your throat tightens. You feel an ache behind your eyes. You are trained to obey. But you are also trained to understand systems. And this system is new, untested, vulnerable to error. You ask yourself a forbidden question. What if the system is wrong? The rule offers safety through obedience. But tonight, obedience feels like surrendering your judgment to a machine that cannot explain itself. If you like these stories that change the fate of the world, subscribe so that you do not miss any of them. Seconds tick away. Your decision will be irreversible. You straighten your back. You choose your words carefully. You pick up the phone, and you say that the alarm is false. The siren still screams as you speak. Your voice sounds steadier than you feel. You report a system malfunction. You do not say maybe. You do not hedge. You commit. The room freezes. Technicians stare at their screens, then at you. The consoles continue to display launch. 5 missiles. The clock keeps counting down. You order checks. Ground-based radar confirmation does not yet exist. Those systems will only see incoming warheads later, if they exist at all. For now, the satellites are everything. Sweat soaks into your uniform. The air smells sharp, metallic. Each breath feels shallow. You force yourself to stand still, to project certainty you do not possess. Minutes stretch into something elastic and painful. The system updates again. No additional launches, just the 5. Your mind clings to that inconsistency. A real attack would escalate, not stall. You imagine the satellite's infrared sensors staring at Earth. You imagine sunlight glinting off clouds. You imagine reflections misread as fire. This is not knowledge. This is intuition, sharpened by familiarity with flawed machines. A subordinate asks, quietly, if you are sure. You nod. Inside, doubt claws at you. You picture missiles already arcing through space. You picture cities erased. You picture history judging you as the man who hesitated. The clock bleeds time. 10 minutes pass. 15. If the missiles are real, ground radar should begin to see them soon. We're reviving the forgotten dates. If you want to be along this route, subscribe right now. Your legs feel weak. You grip the edge of the console, feeling its cold bite into your palms. The noise of the room fades in and out, replaced by the sound of your own heartbeat. You think about your father, about how wars begin not with villains, but with certainty. 20 minutes. Still nothing on radar. The system does not retract its warning. It insists. You insist back, silently. At 23 minutes, confirmation arrives, not of impact, but of absence. Ground radar sees nothing, no objects, no warheads. The siren cuts off. The red word disappears. The room exhales. You slump into your chair, muscles shaking now that they no longer have to pretend strength. Your uniform clings to you, damp with sweat. Your mouth tastes like copper. Later analysis will suggest that sunlight reflecting off high-altitude clouds aligned perfectly with the satellite sensors, creating false infrared signatures. At this moment, you do not know that. You only know that the world continues. The clock keeps ticking. There is no celebration. The shift ends in a haze. You feel hollowed out, as if something essential drained away and did not return. Your body trembles with delayed shock. Sleep, when it comes, is shallow and crowded with alarms. Official reactions are muted, and investigation follows, clinical and quiet. The system's flaw is acknowledged internally. Paperwork accumulates. Voices remain controlled. You are not praised. You are not punished. From the institution's perspective, you broke the rule. Even though you were right, that is dangerous precedent. Systems depend on obedience more than wisdom. The enemy never knew how close the night came. Neither did the public. This ignorance feels heavy, almost unfair. Within the intelligence community, confidence in the satellite system is shaken. Adjustments are made. Redundancies emphasized. The doctrine bends slightly, just enough to absorb what happened without admitting vulnerability. You return to ordinary life, changed in ways that are hard to articulate. Food tastes duller. Sounds seem sharper. You carry a private knowledge that no metal could outweigh. History moves on, unaware. Stanislav Petrov did not receive a hero's welcome. For years, his action remained classified, spoken of only in whispers. He continued his career quietly, eventually retiring without fanfare. When the story finally emerged after the end of the Cold War, it did so awkwardly, without a place in official mythology. There are no monuments listing the billions who were not killed. There is only a man, 44 years old on that night, who trusted his judgment when the system demanded obedience. The doctrinal legacy is subtle but real. Early warning systems today emphasize corroboration. Human judgment is formally acknowledged as a necessary component, not a flaw. The rule did not disappear, but it learned to listen. Petrov himself downplayed his role. He insisted he was simply doing his job. This modesty is part of the burden. It is easier to celebrate action than restraint, violence than refusal. But restraint is what mattered. The Cold War is remembered through crises and speeches, through walls and missiles, and names etched into treaties. Yet it was also shaped by anonymous rooms, flickering screens, and individuals making choices alone. On one September night in 1983, the difference between survival and annihilation came down to a man who hesitated when he was told not to. That is why this moment matters. Because the world did not end, not by design, but by doubt. This story isn't about a loud hero. It's about a single moment when one person paused between obedience and reason. If you believe moments like this in history are worth preserving, a simple like or subscription helps keep these stories alive. Where are you watching from? Leave your city or country in the comments. And if someone in your family served, share their name. Thank you for helping ensure that Stanislav Petrov and the night the world almost ended are not lost to silence.